Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Are you enjoying the March Madness? Jimmy Fallon joked about Yale making the tournament and said their sign said, "Don't you know who our fathers are? Perhaps we should settle this on the squash court. And this is such a bad loss, I'm writing it off on my taxes." Jimmy Kimmel said Gonzaga is the college basketball version of the Easter Bunny. It shows up once a year, makes a bunch of baskets, and then disappears. Netflix obviously has installed a spy cam in my basement studio here. Yesterday's episode was quite long, 20-something minutes before I did the edits. As soon as I finished, I got an email. Netflix is a joke fest, outside joke lineup announcement. Outdoors at the Hollywood Palladium, 2 weekends, May 3rd through the 5th and May 10th through the 12th. So just zipping down this on May 3rd, Freddie Gibbs, Are You Still Listening? And The Drop, hosted by Stavros Halkias on Saturday, May 4th. I think I'm in Cleveland that day. I won't be able to make the festival. Unless I blow Cleveland off. The guy in Cleveland I'm visiting right now is like, whoa, don't do that. The Crossword Show with Zach Sherwin, Marc Rebellet, Josh Adam Myers, and The Drop-In, hosted by Leslie Jones. Then on Sunday, May 5th, Netflix is a Drag. Zach Sherwin again, Fred Armisen, and The Drop-In, hosted by Janelle James. Then the following weekend on the Friday, that's May 10th, Puddle's Pity Party, a roast battle with Jeff Ross and friends, and The Drop-In, hosted by Jim Jeffries. That's awesome. Saturday, May 11th, Adam Ray's Dr. Phil, Middle-Aged Dad Jam Band with David Wayne and Ken Marino, Morgan J., Reggie Watts, another roast battle, and then The Drop-In, hosted by Tim Dillon. Wow, Sunday, May 12th. Is that not Mother's Day? Netflix is a Drag, Therapy Gecko, another roast battle, and then The Drop-In, hosted by Atsko Atkatska. Now, that's not the main festival. That's just outside. A day pass will get you in for $25, all in with fees, says the email. Guaranteed entry to Outside Joke for the single day. If you're a festival ticket holder, if you have a ticket to any show at the festival, you get access to the Outside Joke via the standby line. Entry first come, first serve. Pete Davidson has decided not to go forward with Bupkis Season 2. It had been renewed, but Pete says he has decided not to continue with it. In a statement, Pete said, "I've always seen Bupkis as a window into my life since it's so personal about my struggles and my family. After nearly a decade of my personal life being in the media, I wanted a chance to tell my story my way. Of all the work I've ever done, Bupkis is by far what I'm most proud of. I'm so grateful to Lorne Michaels and Broadway Video, Peacock, Universal Television, and the amazing cast and writers for helping me create something honest, funny, and heartfelt. I do also feel that this part of my life is finished. I'm very excited for this next chapter and for you guys to see the work. Thank you to all who support me, for I am forever grateful." What do you think's going on there? That's weird, right? Now, I'm Googling Pete Davidson. I don't see anything gossip cornery, but here from Curbed, I'm doing this on the fly here. The plan for Pete Davidson and Colin Jost to Staten Island Ferry. All right, let's read this. I'm reading this cold. Curbed, right? 3 months after Colin Jost and Pete Davidson bought a decommissioned Staten Island ferry for $280,000, Jost stood on its deck like a triumphant captain as it was towed through New York Harbor to a temporary dock. That was 2 years ago. Ever since, the 277-foot-long boat seems to have just sat and sat and sat. If you've ever been on the Staten Island ferry, it's big. Locals living near the Staten Island dock told the New York Post they haven't seen anyone working on it. Pete Davidson told reporters they were stoned when they bought the ferry and said he hopes it turns into a transformer and gets the F out of there. Colin Jost has said, "Is it worse that I was actually stone cold sober?" On a podcast last year, writes Curb, Davidson broke character and told Seth Meyers there was an actual plan for the boat, regular conference calls about its redesign, and even renderings. Quoting Pete, "We had them do one of those computer-generated show you what it could be things." Curb asks, "But who's them?" One reporter on the ferry purchase named a fourth partner, Ron, an architect who's worked for some companies I've never heard of. Doesn't mean they're not good, I've just never heard of them. On the website for that firm, it lists the JFK ferry as a project they're working on for JFK partners with a budget of $34 million? $34 million? That's not a blown edit there. I said it twice. $34 million? And a floor plan of 65,000 square feet? $34 million? A short video that played on his website last month showed his renderings for each floor: a top deck furnished with patio tables set with umbrellas, another floor with 2 rows of hotel rooms that open onto sun decks, and a lower level with 2 clubs. $34 million? The ferry may open with 2 restaurants and 6 bars. I mean, it's big. It's not 6 bars and 2 restaurants big, I don't think. I'm not an architect. I'm not an expert. Been on the ferry a few times. Doesn't seem that big. So Curbed interviewed this guy and asked what's Pete and Colin's role. He said, they have input, they see everything, we have meetings as needed, sometimes twice a week, sometimes every 3 months. They asked him about the 6 bars and 2 restaurants. The guy said, it's going to have a lot of things. I think right now we have 6 bars and 2 venues operated separately or combined. We have an outdoor event space. We have restaurants, 2 restaurants. It's a big boat, almost 300 feet long, 65,000 square feet, Curbed asked. Pete Davidson said it would have 2 hotels. Is that still happening? The guy said, it's only 1 floor of hotel rooms, 24 rooms on the 5th floor. They have private sun decks. But no pool? Pool is something that keeps coming up. We're going back and forth. There's a little jacuzzi kind of thing, but not a full-on pool. We'd have to do a floating pool. And Davidson said it's going to go between Miami and New York City. The guy said, yeah, I think that's exactly still the plan. Doesn't have to be in one place. It can move. This is amazing. All right, this is going in the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast group, if you want to read this yourself, because it's, I won't say it's unbelievable, but it's, makes me go $34 million several times. Watch this. I'll be here in 8 years telling you how Pete Davidson's a billionaire from this ferry. Triumph, the insult comic dog, has released a special, and Triumph spoke to Consequence of Sound. Rob Smigel, the voice and hand up Triumph's booty, has just released an edited version of Let's Make a Poop, the live game show taped at San Francisco Sketch Fest. Smigel told Consequence he didn't have as much control over the taping of the show as he would have liked. I felt like it was the most enjoyable show I'd done live in like 20 years. If I had really shot it more carefully, I might have tried to sell it somewhere. I didn't feel it was in that kind of shape, but I still think it's worth sharing, so I decided I would share it on YouTube for free. I gotta remember to watch this weekend. Last night, my daughter had a theater show, so that killed Friday night TV. And, the new baseball game's out on the video game platforms. Got to make some time for that. Plus, my phone's exploding. I listen to all these podcasts, which pairs up nicely with playing baseball on the video game. Johnny Mac digresses. Smigel says the Sketchfest show stands out because it had this unusual dynamic of having Weird Al Yankovic there and having people sing his presumed song parodies, and that played out really well live on stage. I had a really hot audience and a really good time, and Rob Schneider was a funny target. As for including Schneider, Smigel says, I'm always for putting people on as long as there are no restrictions for Triumph. As long as Triumph can tear into the person, and I feel like I tore into Rob pretty well, that's kind of the point. The people you want are rich subjects. You may or may not know that Rob Schneider has gotten politically outspoken in recent years. Smigel says there was a past Sketchfest and they didn't want the particular guests. They were like, no, the audience will be too upset. And I'm like, you don't get it. The whole point is I'm going to tear into this person. It'll be very satisfying. Smigel understands why people have this impulse. Everything is so heightened now, and people don't even want to give platforms to ... The word normalized is a very popular word now. I had to take my sweatshirt off. It's 5 trillion degrees in the basement today. I don't know why. It's cold out. Smigel says there is a class of person that I wouldn't give a platform to, even to make fun. People that I feel are like grifters and are saying things they don't even necessarily mean. They're saying it to cultivate a certain audience. I didn't feel like Rob Schneider fell into that category, but there are people that do, and I wouldn't interact with them, even as Triumph. I'd just be like, nah, I don't want you to get anything out of this. I don't want you to come away feeling like you got exposure or credit for laughing at yourself. They're not doing it in a funny way like Triumph might do. They're not entertaining. Some of them think they are, but they're not really funny enough to justify that. They're just fanning the flames of paranoia and anger. I wonder who he means. Like, seriously, I wonder who he means. He did want to have on commentator Ben Shapiro. Triumph would have had a field day with Ben Shapiro. I don't know if San Francisco's audience will let me do it, but I like putting people on and ridiculing them if they're willing to take it, and I feel like that guy has always been consistent. At least he feels like he genuinely subscribes to what he says. That's a lot more tolerable to me. A lot of people find him obnoxious, but he tries to speak intelligently. Smigel says, now this interview is going to be like, Smigel defends Ben Shapiro. Rolling Stone tagged on and said Triumph asked if he could perform some of his favorite Weird Al spoofs, only he delivered some hilarious, dumb, half-baked ones Al definitely didn't write. 1, Dumplings. Set to Bon Jovi's Wanted Dead or Alive. Another Mudslide, a take on Fleetwood Mac's Landslide about fast casual takeout and bowel movements. Triumph pretended Weird Al wrote numerous parodies of Green Day's Good Riddance, one being about being confused by cream cheese with chives, one about cutting a cantaloupe with a plastic knife, one about a flight attendant explaining how a seat works as a flotation device, and one about not getting Paul Thomas Anderson's Inherent Vice. This is fun, and I forgot. I pulled a clip. Let's listen.
Michael Winslow! The man is amazing. Michael Winslow can reproduce any sound except for a casting director saying, you got the part.
Let's go to notables for 20, please.
Notables for 20. Okay. Republicans in 26 states have been working to outlaw this act that many conservatives consider immoral. What is voting? Okay.
During the game show Pooperty, which you just heard, twice the game required audio clues to answer questions about who wrote famous pop parodies of songs by R.E.M. and Lana Del Rey. Thomas Lennon came out first, delivering a version of Losing My Religion about purchasing persimmons. Hammer Ruffin tackled the latter, turning Summertime Sadness into a tune about watching tennis great Pete Sampras. Close it out, Triumph got Weird Al himself to perform a duet of one of the fake songs, a spoof of Chandelier about wanting to binge old sitcoms. The chorus, I want to watch Mr. Belvedere. Love it. Wow, long again today. There's just been so much news. I just bumped 5 stories. Don't worry, we've got plenty of other days we can get to things. On your HBO Max HBO Max tonight, Ramy Youssef, More Feelings. Ramy will offer his unique reflections on our divided world, the unexpected perils of charitable giving, and more, including the 2024 presidential election, the importance of prayer, and a childhood book report that changed the course of his life. Before October 7th, Ramy says he was touring an hour-long set that included a story about going home with a woman and finding out she had an Israeli flag on the wall. He says, I'm horny, so I'm trying to justify it. That's the Star of David. That's their logo. It's just Jewish. Big. Post-October 7th, he didn't have to throw everything out and start over, but he knew he'd have to write about it after friends started reaching out. October 10th, I get a call from a guy I know. Yo, bro, where you at with Hamas? Youssef is defiant. Where I'm at? Are we effing? You think any of us like what happened? We hate seeing people die. It made me cry. His punchline, spoiler, you know me. You think I'm Hamas? Bro, I'm a Taliban guy. Talked about people asking him about Israel and Hamas, and he said, let's be real. What's at the bottom of the question? The bottom of the question is, you think I might like this? You think there's a chance I think terrorism's cool? He was asked, was the punchline always Taliban? He said, we tried Boko Haram, but their brand isn't strong enough to get the pop or the laugh you want. The interviewer was like, wait, really? Ramy said, no, it was always Taliban. That's not the kind of joke you can workshop with a bunch of Arabs, though, because at a certain point, someone non-Arab shows up and goes, what are you guys talking about? The joke in of itself creates the problem you're trying to avoid. The New Indian Express was curious about in the special, did somebody from Joe Biden's campaign really reach out to you in 2020? Ramy said, yeah, we had a Zoom. I mean, they're nice people, by the way. Like, they're really good. And I think, obviously in the special, it's kind of fun to play with those situations. We're in a really interesting predicament where it's kind of like, hey, you sure you want to complain about Biden? Because Trump is worse. And then it's kind of like, all right, that's kind of textbook abuse, right? You don't say anything because then it's going to get worse. And you say, okay, I thought we're in a democracy. Or aren't we supposed to kind of question it and poke at it? And then I'm feeling an interesting thing where we're kind of voicing what I think is an incredibly fair argument and also starting to feel this feeling of, hey, you might blow this election for us. Ramy might get himself in trouble here. He was asked about Taylor Swift coming to see one of his shows, and he said, she was like person of the year. It kind of becomes this huge talking point or whatever. I've kind of a throwaway joke about it. Watch out. Whew, be careful here. Let's listen to what the throwaway joke might be. He says, for the most part, it's like we just met, like she was a big fan of the movie Poor Things. Boy, she's going to be mad at that joke. So I don't know if that's on to say, but she's a really cool person. All right, that's long enough for today. Tomorrow's going to be long, too, because I can tell you how many stories I just bumped. And that's your comedy news for today. If you enjoyed the program, tell a friend about it. They might like it, too. Come back tomorrow. It'll be robust. See you here.